Are we
Welcome to Plat Chat episode 47, presented by T-Mobile. I have returned from the deserts where I stared at the stars as our ancestors once did. Blinded by the lights and the beauty of the universe, I watched the band of the Milky Way as the rotation of our planet displayed such wonders to me. And as I looked down at my phone, I was aghast because I realized, not aghast, but blinded by brilliance as my phone had a 5G T-Mobile network in the desert.
Wow.
In the desert. Crazy.
It's pretty impressive.
And from that point, I realized that they also have America's largest 5G network covering over 215 million people nationwide in nearly 6,000 cities and towns. And even better, their nationwide 5G network works indoors, outdoors, covering thousands of miles, while the competition only covers city blocks. So rank up and take your wireless game to the next level with T-Mobile, and visit T-Mobile.com today. Welcome to Plat Chat, episode 47, presented by T-Mobile, everybody.
You actually were in the desert last night.
I was in the desert last night. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the necessary information that the audience at home absolutely lacked. Like, they have no idea that you were actually in the desert.
That was also the most energy Bren has ever used to talk about anything on the show.
For some reason, Matt, I don't know why, this is this moment right here, not necessarily being in a call with you, but in general, this is the happiest I've been in my life. Not in my life, actually. Probably in the last 6 months, I'd say.
You're the happiest right now, whilst we're in the middle of like quarantine.
In the last out of quarantine, I'd say. Out of lockdown, I'm probably the happiest I've been right now.
Right.
And it's because I've stopped reading our YouTube comments.
Oh, the poor people down in YouTube.
Me and Josh read them,
Yeah, you guys filter it. I don't care. So in case you haven't noticed, I'm joined by Jaws. I actually really hate it when Jaws is on the show because it's like when you bring in a shiny new toy and you're comparing it to me. It makes me look so much worse when I'm next to you.
You're so energetic and happy. You just want to make sure you secure your job.
Trying to put on a good impression.
Trying to put on a good show.
Jaws is okay. The only thing that's kind of like weird when Jaws is on is that like he doesn't say a lot and you don't say anything. So sometimes I think it's all frozen and I can't tell whether we're still going.
I'm just trying to be polite.
Huh?
I'm just trying to be polite. I'm invited on, so I don't really want to
he's a guest,
overstep my bounds.
Listen, you step to the tier 7 house, you step to us all right?
The tier
don't make me come around the man's ends.
Tons of content going on there.
We're producing a ton.
Best content is Kurt rating Pop-Tarts.
That's true.
You guys, if anyone out there wants to watch them, I tweeted about it today. Kurt had a great video on his YouTube channel where he rated, I believe it was Pop-Tart branded Pop-Tarts versus
the store brand,
like the generic store brand Pop-Tarts, and he toasted them, he froze them, which was weird. I don't know. I didn't know you can freeze
I've never heard of that, except when I began watching the Kurt Reviews
you know what, though?
series.
It's an in-depth study.
It really is. I appreciate his ABX study, of being able to, he takes one, he takes the other, he makes his conclusion, and then he's told it. Yeah, it was very thorough. It was very scientific. I also liked his
for a Pop-Tart review. You would assume it would be
his burly assistance as well.
Yeah, you'd assume it would be a bit more
Mimi.
Objective.
Slapdash.
Slapdash. I mean, sure, you can use those words. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. What?
What are we talking about?
I'm talking about this.
Overwatch.
Topic number 1 on our list of items is speculation of the playoff meta, because we're currently in a weird period of the Overwatch League right now where the catch-up games are happening, but some of them don't matter, and also the meta is going to be completely different to what the playoff meta is. So what we do know is that the playoff meta is going to be on the patch, right? The new patch, the one that nerfs the main tanks, and nerfs Orisa, Sigma, Brig. Yeah. So, Jaws, starting with you, what do you think the playoff meta is going to be? What's your speculation? You got any hot takes?
I'm playing a ton of ranked, 200 games a day. Nah, it's probably about 30 games a day of ranked.
I'm pretty sure 200 a day is impossible.
Yeah, it's pretty impossible. Probably about 30 games a day, maybe.
30 games a day is a lot.
Across a couple of accounts.
At the gold level, you can get lots of games in.
Yeah.
You can get lots of games in at gold.
You do. Yeah. In this meta, you actually do, and I'm not kidding, because either the enemy team has double sniper, damage boosted by Mercy, or a hog player that's better than your hog player. That's literally it. It's double sniper, hog Zarya. It's disgusting.
Double sniper, hog Zarya.
Yeah, Sonic right now is roll a d20. And maybe you get more than 5. And if you get more than 5, you lose. Like, it's actually the worst.
Hog? Like, when they nerfed the shields, like, kind of buffing Hog was like oh yeah, let's really make sure the shields go away.
Yeah.
But now he's got... Because think about, like, all they've done to Hog, like, in a while. Like, he can take the breather and, like, he becomes... like unkillable and he walks away.
It's a guaranteed one shot now with Hook.
Now
way.
He goes back to one shot Hook Hog.
It's
he goes
pretty
back
much
to one shot Hook Hog.
If you know when you hook someone, it comes in, you just continue hold W and you like move like an inch closer. As long as your gun is somewhere in the vicinity of their head, you get it's a one shot onto.
So we have
disgustingly
an purely off-tank meta, because I saw Fusions as well. He tweeted, right,
he's saying like they nerfed Orisa,
they nerfed Orisa, but I didn't expect them to remove my role. I think is what he said.
It's whoever has the best hog. All the dirty hog one tricks are coming back. All the
Snizzle nose.
Bring back Snizzle and Himsy.
Yeah, but this is really, does this really go into the
isn't going to go into
like,
Overwatch
competitive game? Yeah, I don't think so.
Like, so a lot of people are still. I don't think this is what we're going to see in Overwatch League. Like I said, it's quick play in comp right now. But what I would say,
you don't think we're going to see the hog Zarya?
No, it's so stupid.
No,
I actually until your head
but
gets
it's solo queue, so you could literally play
hogs.
anything, and hog works because hog goes on the flank, picks somebody, no one looks around and goes, "Why are you dead?"
So,
and then everybody just presses W.
I
think it's going to be Sigma back in the meta, and with hog maybe. I think Sigma's going to stay in because of Sigma's versatility.
Really?
We'll see, because I think Ryan Zarya actually might be kind of decent too. It's so hard to tell right now. It's like unbelievably hard to tell.
I think Widow will be in.
Widow's permapick, absolutely.
I think Widow will be in. I think now that like shields are nerfed, and if you don't see Sigma a ton, where he can just go like that and put a shield in Widow's face from any distance on the map, I think you'll see some Widow play. What are you smirking about over there, Uncle Egg?
I'm smirking because the community just begs for an end to double shield. Begs on their hands and knees. Please, Jeffrey, please get rid of the shields. And then when the meta is swapped up to something we've never seen before in Overwatch, it's so far away from the norm, from like what people have built in their heads of how Overwatch should be, that they're like, it's fucking quick play. It's chaos.
It is. Back. It actually is, though. It's chaos. Like, Widows dominate because there's no shields. And there's a Mercy hiding around the corner like this with a fucking with a blue beam. And you just lose if they have a better Widowmaker.
I think this also, though, it illustrates some of the difficulties with balancing a game like Overwatch. Because certain heroes are just on a knife's edge. Like Hog, for example. Absolute trash when shields are in the game. Soon as you get rid of the shields, well, and also give him a one-hit kill potential as well, obviously. But he would still be pretty good without that as well, because you leave the people on like 2 HP with no shield to hide behind. But yeah, he just becomes bonkers. And like Widowmaker as well is just, you require these shields to be able to get into choke points.
I have been
so many heroes who are like that.
Yeah,
I've been
like just
peering into the archives. Been peering into the scrim data.
Oh yeah.
And
who gave you access to scrim data?
Yeah, why are you about to talk about scrim data?
What?
What's scrim data?
Well, I'm not really allowed to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. And so teams have been experimenting a little bit with a variety of compositions that we've seen. I don't know if the double off tank will stay, but I think in theory, the thing that I think will survive. Now, here's the thing: I keep double backing on this, but I think the thing that will survive will be the Winston Sombra compositions.
Really?
Yes.
I don't think so.
But
I think
because of Hog, it makes Winston a lot less playable. So I don't know. We might see some weird countercomp stuff coming around for playoffs.
Hog and ball torture, man.
I think. I mean,
Chengdu meta.
Chengdu meta.
Chengdu finals.
I think
We said it previously.
I think to Jaws's point, I think Sigma's probably in. I think what would kind of hurt a Winston-based comp is like some kind of like Rein Zarya, maybe Roadhog coming into play. I think there's a chance that like the meta is all over the place, right?
I think double sniper Rein Zarya actually might be the meta we head to be honest with you.
It's currently so far away, at least in top ranked, from anything that resembles normal Overwatch, that it might take a long time for people to figure out what really is the best, because the best might be something that no one's ever tried before. And I also want to put this to you guys. How fucking funny would it be if every year we have a patch at the end of playoffs that, or at the beginning of playoffs, rather, at the end of the season, that takes the meta for the year and just flips it on its head? It happens every year. It happened before the Overwatch League. It used to always happen in tournaments.
There's already case studies of this already, though, with League of Legends. And everybody hates it.
Dota does it as well.
Right. But that's like just been a thing in Overwatch. This year, we had hero pools. The meta changed constantly. So in theory, a playoff patch shouldn't be that different because we've had playoff patches all year. But it has changed so drastically for the playoffs that it has flipped even this year of chaos and hero pools on its head. You know, it's so perfect.
Jeff was probably somewhere. He's like, you know what? These guys keep complaining about double shield. Watch this.
Yeah.
Watch this.
Calls up Jeff Goodman. He's like, bro, bring back Hog and nuke the shields. And Jeff Goodman's like, are you sure, bro? He's like, bring him back. By the way, nerf Brig to the ground as well. Let's see what happens. It's a huge patch. It's actually a patch that I'm a big fan of, just because the game needed to get away from some of the shields. A lot like we were talking about the Dev AMA, where they wanted things to go back more towards trend towards more FPS and less MOBA. They kind of trend that way with this. This is definitely going that direction. I think though, because we haven't seen this in so long, it's going to have a kind of correctional period where people are like, what the hell is this? I'm getting one shot by Hog, Widowmaker's killing me. Like,
there's going to be some people though as well that are screaming about competitive integrity and how you can't change it. You know, the meme that people have been making these days, that are crying like, you can't just change the meta before playoffs. You can't nerf double shield. And then there's the Chad Overwatch dev team, bro, that just nerf it, and they're just you know, they decide on. Yes.
There's always stuff that happens in like professional sports as well, with competitive like integrity.
But
like,
the point. Hold
on. What professional stick and ball sport has changed this much before playoffs? It doesn't ever happen.
Change the soccer ball into a triangle.
Basketball just had a play-in game for the final playoff spot. They've never done that ever.
No, you're right. That is the same as completely changing the entire metagame. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The basketball's playing with fucking oval balls now as well, aren't they? Where you can't do bounce passes. They nerf bounce passes. I remember that.
I remember the bounce passes.
I remember that patch.
I heard they're going to add spikes to the ball to be like Mario, but we'll see if that comes in.
That bounce passes are illegal now.
Well, okay. But the point I was making is there's going to be people like there who say, like, what about my competitive integrity?
Yeah.
Firstly, sit down, Timmy. I was going to say something ruder than that, but I figured, family show. But I think this season is already kind of fucked.
In
terms of competitive integrity, we've had hero pools, we've had COVID, we've had ping discrepancies, we've had teams DCing, we've had entire rosters scrapped, we've had star players refusing to play. The season's gone. It's on fire. It's burning.
It will have a very large asterisk. I was actually thinking about this recently, actually. I think every season we've played so far will have a big asterisk. And I know that in League of Legends, for example, looking back on League of Legends now, which is like, what is it?
10 years old.
Is it like 12, 13 years in?
I think it's 10.
The first World was in 2010.
Right, okay, so it's a full 10 years in. I think they don't, I might be wrong about this because it's only come from watching Monty and Thorin talk about it in their podcast, but I think they completely discount seasons 1 and seasons 2 because the meta hadn't been established.
Also, season 1 was in a LAN hall somewhere, like season 1 Worlds with Fnatic versus, I can't remember the team, and like, the game was so small at that point, they didn't count it as Worlds because it was like almost
Yeah,
like
yeah.
7 teams. You know, it wasn't really like a world championship, as it were. Season 3 was like our highest, like, this is it now. This is what we want.
For the Overwatch League, I feel like 2021 will be the year where everyone thinks about it like truly beginning. It should have been this year, except COVID. And so all of the homestands kind of fucking blew it up. But no one's going to look at 2019 and be like, yes, this is the year where we take all of our data from. Because everyone was playing fucking GOATs, which is illegal for the future continuing.
For the future of the game,
And then 2018 is the beginning of the game with only 12 teams. Like, it wasn't really, the game wasn't like established enough, I feel, to be useful. And then this year's just been riddled with difficult issues. So I still
think this year's actually been a ton of fun to like watch. Like, I think the games this year have been crazy, and I actually enjoy the region split because I think it creates a nice kind of argument of who's better, and we don't see it for a while.
I love that.
I hate when like I hated when we saw the same teams like you know, you have a playoff match of like a New York Shanghai, let's use it for an example, like of a previous season. It's like, well, we've seen that match 5 times already, right? There's nothing that special.
I mean,
like,
there's only 7 teams in Asia, though.
Right, but think about how hype it'll be like if we see like Shock Shanghai for the first time, right? There's so much discussion going into that of which team is better, who's got a better grasp of the meta. You know, Josh can tweet a wolf and they can argue back and forth for 30 tweets. I mean, but I really enjoyed having the regions kind of split. I think it adds like a little bit of a story. And
I would like to see in the future some kind of hybrid system where the regions are split, but they interact like 4 times during the year.
So you mean like how League of Legends currently works, or has worked for the last few years? Because League have had LCK, LPL, and LEC and LCS. Of course, LEC a few years ago was LCS EU and then LCS NA. But before, I haven't kept up too much with, apart from LCK, I've not really kept up too much with the international tournaments, but they had this thing called MSI, which was the invitational tournaments for the middle of the season. So it was like, cool. For like a couple of times a year, we get to see the Korean teams that qualify and like the EU teams, the Chinese teams, the North American teams. They clash, and it's like, whoa, this is insane. Like, oh, maybe Korea gonna win it again, and Korea gets upset, and then it's like, and then it boils down again to like their each individual regions, and then it comes back to Worlds again, and it's like, wow, remember when the last time they met? Like, damn, Korea got beaten by EU.
That is so cool.
Like, what the hell? We weren't expecting that. Are they going to do the same thing again? Like, I really like that system, like the whole small regions and then the mid-season tournaments.
Yeah, and I think with how we did tournaments with hero pools definitely was like the best way to do it after a while. Like, I think having the 2 weeks and then the open weeks, I think have been good. We haven't had to listen to Bren talk about hero pools anymore for 15 minutes in the middle of the show, which has been nice.
This week, by the way, though, has been fucking chaos. It has brought me back to the heyday of disliking hero pools. I sat there watching some of the matches this week, and I was like, fucking what's even the point? Like, this hero pool is never going to be in again. There's a playoff patch on the horizon. They've just played a new patch, and all the games are just like people figuring shit out.
I also said to Mitch when we were casting, I was like, when was the last time we saw a game that didn't feature Genji or Tracer?
Yeah.
Like, even before Genji got buffed, it was like all about like Orisa Tracer and whatnot. It was like, and then it just became like all Genji. I was like, and then this week, and then we just started to see the dive with Winston Zarya, and Zarya was gone, and then like it was just the odd hero pool
all over the place. Yeah, I mean that's been I tell you the one good thing out of the season though is that normally we reach this point where you kind of get a feeling for what the playoffs are going to be, and you kind of get a feeling for what the best teams are, and you know that certain teams just don't have a chance. And the games really had no kind of semblance of meaning. Do you remember the previous seasons where we get to this point like around end of stage 3?
Matters.
Yeah,
or the every map matters
stuff. It has been delayed.
It has. It's been pushed back now, so we only have to, it's only the last 2 weeks. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out there who just like watching the Overwatch League, and they don't care if the matches are chaotic. They don't care if it's scrappy. It's just fun to watch the team that they support clash with other teams. The banter going backwards and forwards. The storylines are continuing. I want to leave the topic of the playoff meta, unless you guys have anything more to say.
I don't think we'll know the meta even like go, because I thought maybe some teams would start trying to play the playoff meta during these 2 weeks, but I have a feeling probably some of the heroes that are gone are included in some of the things that they want to try. So it's really hard to even get a gauge of whether they're actually trying new things or not.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll even understand the playoff meta till probably the second week of playoffs.
Yeah,
because I think like you have a
yeah.
bunch of teams who like they'll either blow the other team out regardless of what happens, or
there's some
whatnot.
potential for enormous upsets.
There are
enormous. Like
Yeah.
it would be.
Look,
It almost seems like it would be a miracle if we ended with a Shock Shanghai finals at this point.
you enter a meta. Let's say, for argument's sake, like something like a Sombra Widow meta. It is so like if your Sombra can farm EMP or if your Widow hits shots type of day. Like your Widow could just come in and just click everybody's face and just win the game.
Maybe.
I think
let's
better Widow wins.
Let's talk about a seeding in NA then, because we had the culmination of the Fusion Shock match, which actually decided a ton. It decided who the #1 seed was and the #2 seed, technically, because, well, enough games have passed, and now they're pretty much solidified. So the Fusion are the #1 seed in NA after a 3-0 win against the Shock are #2. How much stock do you want to put into this role? Because people have been asking me on my personal stream, they're like, "Oh, what does this mean for the playoffs? What does this mean for everything else? Does it mean that Shock are just not going to be winning? They're not the favorites anymore?" I mean, the thing that I said was I would still bank on the two teams making it out of NA being Philly and Shock, but I mean, who the fuck knows? You know.
Well, the one thing I think you can take from it is kind of what I've been talking about with Philly all season long. Is that they can play really any, like with the combination of players they have, they can really kind of cover all bases and play anything at a high level. There's not really a meta that they're going to be the best at, maybe. We don't know, right? But there's not going to be a meta that they probably fall outside of the top 3 North America in.
Yeah.
I think they're one of the only I think the only other roster you can say that is San Francisco. And what I think probably triggered some Philly fans is they played Carpe in the situations that everyone was screaming for them to play Carpe in during the Countdown Cup. Completely different meta with no Genji in the mix.
Oh man, that was making me mauled.
But he did put up some really nice performances though.
Oh yeah. Carpe had a hell of a game. I watched this back and I feel like I didn't watch this live because I went and had a nap instead for some reason. But I went back and I watched the VOD.
And Uncle Egg, why are you so tired?
Uncle Egg, he gets tired around 2:00 in the afternoon.
But I went back and I watched a VOD, which allows you to be a little more like objective with it, right? Because you already know the results, so you're not really paying attention. There's no emotional concept part to it. So instead, I was just looking at it, and I felt like the community perception was that Shock just didn't turn up. But instead, I thought that Philly just had a hell of a game. Carpe was hitting everything, and they had Hisu on his best role as well. Sado had an amazing game, by the way, hitting some fantastic halts to he had one play towards the end of King's Row, and that King's Row game was super tight as well, by the way.
God,
Philly almost got full held on point A, and then at the end, they were struggling to deny Shock the win. It was like this Sado pull off the high ground to deny an amp matrix. He pulled 2 people off the high ground, and the amp matrix is just left up top, and he just crushed their entire push with that one play. And then Winston was hitting a lot of shots.
His Winston was
first
ridiculous.
game it was the first game where I have seen the Shock. So usually Shock is always the aggressive team and pushes the other team back. They're the one who dictates the pace of play. They force you to make mistakes. This is the first time I've ever seen anyone get this aggressive against San Francisco and force them on their back foot. And it was really kind of, I think, telling what you could do. I thought Carpe versus Once was a big matchup, but I thought Carpe did a great job. I don't know how you felt when you watched it back.
Yeah, he did.
I thought he did a great job of being able to defend himself against, a lot of times they would come around with Moth and another player on a flank, try and speed them around and get Choi in his face or something like that. And Carpe always traded those 1-for-1, which is massive because that gave the Philadelphia Fusion a huge advantage pushing into the front of the shot.
I think they also just didn't quite have a good handle on what the meta was. I mean, obviously the Shock came into King's Row, which is what we're watching here, trying to play the Reinhardt compositions. And they Super was just having the worst of times playing against the McCree and the Sombra. It was just so hard for him to play against that when he's got a Winston in his face all the time as well, and they had to move over to this double shield kind of look instead.
Well, versus double shield, like the Ryan just loses. There's not really much the Ryan can do, and it's really funny because every single King's Row, it's like whenever you face Shock, you know Super's going to come in. You know they're going to play Reinhardt, and what do Fusion do? Well, they just play around that fact, and like their hold of point A is kind of ridiculous because they just split up. They just hide in every single window and like high ground. And it's like, you want to come up to us? Fine. We're just going to out-rotate you. And they just keep doing it. And you're like, you can't do anything. The Ryan sits on the point just getting owned from like 3 angles. Philly are just so good. And I think Shock, I don't think it's a trap that they can fall into because their players are so good, but sometimes it's fairly telegraphed. If they have X person in or like they play X map, hey, we're going to play this, we're going to play it like this.
How do you guys feel if there's a meta, let's say, where it is something like a dedicated hit scan with like a McCree, an Ashe, a Widowmaker, and then like a true flex DPS? Because I feel like what you also saw with San Francisco, which we didn't get a lot to talk about during the broadcast, but like Striker's Tracer's been unreal this season, right? Like the Tracer from Striker plus like Smurf on the Winston, it's been a huge combination. If they're in a position where they have to play Onsen, Rascal, or Tot, like some kind of combination that doesn't involve Striker on Tracer, how do you guys feel about San Francisco?
I think they're still fine.
Yeah.
Like the Shock have still got a nutty team, and if anything as well, one of the points I wanted to kind of glide into. I'm not saying they're going to
get first rounded, but
yeah, well, I mean, if they're second seed, they're going to be what in the? Do we know the format yet for the NA?
I don't know. I haven't seen like a bracket or anything.
Bro, I didn't even know how the seeding worked until they announced Fusion as number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna speculate and assume that it means that the number 1 and number 2 seed have automatic buys to the semis for the NA side of things. That seems to make sense in my head.
That isn't how it's worked for the Countdown Cup and stuff, but maybe
is it the quarters?
I mean, they just got
in APAC they get automatic buys to the semis, but in
top 4 gets to the quarters if it's the same format as the cups we've been running this year.
Interesting. Okay, so regardless of that, I'm just going to assume that they do go a little bit forward. But I think Shock are fine. What do we make of the fact that I don't want to turn away from your conversation point, but who was it who posted a tweet saying "Thank you, Fusion, for my motivation"? Was that Striker or
Striker? Yeah,
Striker.
Yeah.
What a scary thing to see tweeted.
Well,
that is
the next game for San Francisco. I believe they made some roster adjustments. They played Twilight over Violet on the Ana, right?
Yeah.
And then they played, I believe it was Striker over Once.
Are you talking about the game against Toronto, though?
Yeah.
How much can you read into that?
I mean, I think you can read a bit into it in terms of the roster that they were
roster,
fielding. I don't think you can tell how good they are, but you can tell that they had to make adjustments. I think the fact that Violet, MVP candidate, was not fielded in any of their maps shows you that, first of all, the theorized loss, the theorized space, the gap in Violet's hero pool, as in they never want to run that motherfucker on Ana, is genuinely true. Like they haven't run him on Ana all season long since they started architect for it at the beginning. Yeah, so like that's clearly a gap that they want to plug with Twilight that is going to minimize some of their flexibility if Ana is getting flex around a bit in the flex support role. We don't exactly know what the meta is going to be for the playoffs. It seems likely that there's going to be some kind of Ana though. Like Ana at the moment is a perma pick and ranked, isn't it, Jaws, at the top level?
Yeah.
Because well, the reason why it's perma pick and ranked is because you have no shield, so you can just nade hog 24/7. Yeah. Nade hog. Your hog pulls hog in. Nade. As soon as the bubble's down, nade. Bubble down, sleep dart. Like that's why Ana's permapick, because she is just it's basically Ana and Mercy, I think, are the current best heroes, because better Widow wins, Mercy pocket, and then Ana for the just fucking sleep hog dart, like Byronator on the hog. I wouldn't put too much stock into the Ana there, but I think Ana will be played because I do strongly believe that gonna be Ryan Zaya. double sniper.
But I think it also showcases that they just had a bad understanding of the meta. And also the shock of only lost games this season when they didn't quite get what the meta was. That's the only way that any team has... Well, actually, that's not quite true because they understood the meta in the Summer Showdown. They just couldn't play it because they didn't have a good Genji. But all of their regular season losses, those 2 back in time to the Los Angeles Gladiators, the one that actually cost them first seed in the fucking season because we're running this percentage of win rate fucking rule.
Into a Lego man.
Yeah, I mean, it must be our internet dying. Either that or Discord, I don't know, but...
I'm becoming very blocky.
Matt is 4 pixels.
Yeah, Matt is like actually 4 pixels.
He looks like a PS1 villain from... He looks like a villain from...
There you go.
James Bond, like one of those games back on PS2.
GoldenEye from
GoldenEye 164.
Yeah, I looked fine on my screen, and Josh looks fine on his.
That's right. It looks fine now. It looks fine now. Sorry.
Yeah, I think... I don't want to go back to the meta discussion for playoffs, but hearing you say it, you think it's going to be Ryan Zarya.
I think hit sounds just generally get better over time. Like
it's too slow though. Isn't?
That's what I would like. Yeah.
Isn't? I don't want to get into it actually. Okay. Whatever.
It's just speculation.
Yeah. Let's move on to Paris Eternal because they have what? What about what?
You're going to bring up Odd Job?
What is this?
From James Bond.
Oh, did you see this?
Oh, I haven't seen this. What is
That's
this?
That's incredible.
Wait, I can't even see it. The tripod's in the way.
It's the face-off meme, but it's Winston's.
Face-off.
You're going...
It was from the final.
That's good, actually. That's really good.
That is quite good. I like that.
And then
so Paris Eternal...
Yes. Yeah.
They've clinched the 3rd seed coming into this now. What odds do we want to give?
They've actually clinched 4th overall as well. It's 4th in it's 4th regular season standings. So they are top 4. It goes Shanghai, then Philly, then Shock, and then Paris.
Oh, interesting.
Those are
unmovable. 3rd in NA though, yeah.
So what chances though do we give Paris Eternal here? Because this is a team that has looked the most up and down out of all of the top teams. They have had the biggest fluctuations, I think, in terms of looking good.
I said it last week. I feel better about the Florida Mayhem than the Paris Eternal. I just don't, for whatever reason, I feel like this is like if there was one team to just get booed by the hero pool at the end, it would be the Paris Eternal.
I will say this though, Matt.
Yeah,
I've said there's 2 takes that stick in my mind over the course of these 47 episodes that we've done. One of them that was Paris Eternal make the finals.
Yeah,
and the other one that Chengdu could make the finals.
Oh my.
Yeah. Chengdu Paris finals. Bren is a prophet.
Paris.
If that happens, not only do I have to get a tattoo on my ass of Wrecking Ball, but I should be considered surely the best analyst that's ever existed in esports.
You have to get a croissant and a Wrecking Ball.
Yeah.
Croissant.
Josh will have to do play-by-play from now on. You can become the analyst.
They don't even know the schedule for this week. They don't know the kind of weird stuff that's coming up. The people don't know.
Just wait.
They don't know.
Paris Eternal, though, I think as much as I agree with you, if there was a team to get boomed by a playoff meta, it would be them. They don't have much tank flexibility. Yeah, a top team, obviously. You're not talking about some bottom team. But a team that has championship potential, any team that could just get ruined by a certain meta, yeah, I agree, it would be Paris. Also, though, there are certain metas where they would just get a huge upgrade.
Doomfist, Pharah.
There's like certain metas where you can just see them slapping, and it would just be a massive upgrade for them. I mean, most of those have now been removed with Genji disappearing, but Doomfist is also another huge one.
Problem is, I don't think Doomfist will ever be viable until he gets buffs because Sombra just existing is more than enough for Doomfist to just not
how
exist.
Weird would it like if they had if it was like something that included like a Sombra and a Widow, like who do they play? Xe and Soon the whole time?
I mean,
like
it's Xe
doesn't play. Yeah, that like.
Well, I think that was part of the reason why they looked so weak in this match that we saw against the Atlanta Reign. Now, of course, they lose the 2 maps that they lose are due to cheese against the fucking Bastion that they failed to deal with.
That Bastion cheese was so sick, though.
Yeah, it's somewhat understandable because you're at the beginning of a new patch, beginning of a new hero pool. You've never practiced against a team that's running a Bastion. You're not even thinking about it.
There's no Genji to dive like the Bastion, so what do you do?
I did love how they just left the teleporter up for the Bastion to be pinging around the map.
It was
Like,
so
they
funny.
didn't even bother breaking the teleporter at any point.
No, they thought it was World Cup. They were playing it like it was Team USA against a bottom World Cup team.
That Route 66 is the worst map that I think I've ever casted in my life. Like, if I could pick a single map that I think was the worst I've ever seen in the history of Overwatch, it would be that map. Because
I was casting with you. Wait, no, I wasn't casting with you.
I was casting with
you
ZP.
Casting with ZP.
And Bren, if you were working on your tech issues or something, then my God, you need to go back and watch. It was a quick one. They got full held at point A because Atlanta were running Sim Junkrat attack on Route 66, and Saucy took 4.5 minutes to build up one tire.
It's the new AKM blade. It's the Saucy tire.
It took him over 4 minutes.
Yeah.
We were at the 4-minute overtime
no
mark,
damage.
and he was still at like 92% of his first tire.
Someone said to me, I was watching a Vast stream, but someone said to me he did 700 damage.
That's
over
awesome.
4
They
minutes.
did the calculations. He did
Yeah,
700 overall
the
damage.
They got the
and that's not
calculators
because
out.
Saucy's a bad player. It's because who the fuck came up with the code?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I mean,
How are you possibly going to get value out of a Junkrat? What, just throwing mines up to Big Earls? Take this, boys.
I think I tuned into that late. Was it when the payload got stopped right on the first turn? Like,
Yeah.
it didn't even make it around the
Didn't
first
make it
turn?
past Big Earls
I
because
remember.
Saucy's just chucking up the mines there.
I remember tuning in. I was like, what the fuck happened here? I didn't see they played Sim. I didn't see they played Sim Junkrat.
Sim
joke
Junkrat the
is,
whole time.
If he got Tyre, they probably would have pushed past first because Tyre is so strong because there's so many hiding spaces in that small map. If he just zips it on the top, boom, kills 2 people, they get first.
As soon as he used it, it died immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. Saucy takes
terrible.
4 minutes, 15 seconds, something like that to pop his tire. Pops the tire, it just evaporates into thin air like it was never a thing.
One day we'll do an episode about the things that trigger us when we cast. Like when I talk about like a Sombra farming up the CMP and the CMP is going to be big, and then they just like fucking YOLO. Like I watched one this weekend, my lord. Somebody took like forever to build this EMP, and I was like, this EMP's got to be good. Their team lost 2 players, and then the guy throws in his translocator, just EMPs. I was like, what the fuck was that? I was like, you just worked for 2 minutes to build up this ultimate. That
was like the London Soul game I did the other day, actually.
Yeah.
London just throwing away EMPs.
Yeah.
What do we think about Paris? What do you guys think about Paris? Me and Josh already gave our opinions. What do you two? What do you two believe?
I have some high hopes for Paris. I think if there was ever a time where, because everyone's saying like, oh, it might just be shock Shanghai in the finals or whatever. I don't know if that's that likely. Honestly, this is the most fluctuating time of any playoff period in Overwatch history in terms of what teams could make it.
I would agree.
You've got Paris that could be contenders. You've got Florida that could be contenders. You've got, of course, you've got to talk about Shock and Philly on the NA side. But, I mean, I could see a weird world. Like, I'm doing some Doctor Strange shit where I'm looking in the perceivable universes. I could see a world where Gladiators maybe shape up and actually just squeeze out cheese wins with some weird Mirror Zarya OG Winston or Ball stuff. Like, I could see Gladiators even shaping up just before playoffs. Like, the important thing is, in playoffs, is that you just come alive. And we've seen teams do this before. London Spitfire Season 1 were absolute dog shit. Their heads were in the sand. They had no chance, and they came alive in playoffs.
Yeah, but the London Spitfire had still won stage 1 and shown that they had crazy potential. At that period in time, they did look really good.
You just
and their heads were way down. But they're not the Gladiators.
Yeah, you just compared the London Spitfire roster, who before the Overwatch League had won. Then they come in, they win stage 1, and then you're comparing that team that won the overall thing. You're like, oh yeah, the Gladiators are kind of similar. They could do the same exact thing.
How is that not similar?
Because they just formed like 24 hours ago. Like they just rocked up. Like, come on.
I think the key is that London had showed us they could do it in the past.
Yeah,
and they had shown us that potential to be the best.
The Gladiators lost to Boston.
Yeah,
Bro.
we've seen only glimmers of that potential from.
I wouldn't be
from
surprised to see Houston knock out a bunch of teams.
Well, this is
Get
the
off the
annoying thing,
show.
though. This is the annoying thing, though, Matt. I don't agree with the teams that you're selecting, but I agree with the concept.
I agree with the concept as well.
Because at some point, do we start having to go through rosters and figure out who has 2 off tanks? Like, do we actually? Is that genuine analysis that we are going to have to do this season?
I saw somebody. I saw somebody on Reddit was like, there because everyone was complaining about like NYXL playing Hotba, and now they were like, wait, hold on, Bianca comes in and plays off tank, and well, wait, we have to bring Hotba back in to play Roadhog. Like,
what about both?
How
Fury
weird is
and
this?
Poco?
No, how about that? Why put in the boombox on the hog?
Because he played it a couple of times in season 1.
The notion on Roadhog, dude. Yeah, bring in the flex supports.
Was
to
kind
play.
of litty, actually. So was
Boombox
Karib. Oh no, Karib couldn't play very much of it.
Some of those flex supports. Some of those flex supports have good Roadhogs. I watched Super stream. He's played a ton of Roadhog.
Yeah.
Never Google Super Roadhog. Never Google it. Just don't do it. But the point, the original point I'm making, which Josh was solidifying, is that this is just going to be chaos. Like, you know,
that's what it is.
Find me somebody who, at the end of this, has a completed bracket from everything that is 100% correct, and they have to have just been inhaling burned Skittles or something to come up with that bracket. Like, I don't even know, mate.
I will say this, like, in terms of APAC, like, I think this type of patch coming in helps a team like Chengdu. Like, they're so unpredictable, and they mess around with all weird stuff, right? And now it's kind of where we're going.
I think for Paris specifically, though, something that they've excelled at is actually that more structured, coached style.
Yeah,
it isn't chaos or craziness. It's having set plans for every map, set ideas for every. Oh, this was Ben Best as well.
Oh yeah,
Ben Best actually. It's a pretty good tweet.
Well, what happened?
It's pretty good.
He said top 4 world regular season. Fantastic. Time to make the playoffs. Time to dominate the playoffs, whatever. I can't actually read it. I'm just trying to paraphrase. And he said also a big middle finger to all the analysts who put us outside the top 15. I can't remember where we put them.
Well.
I put Paris at like number 2, I think.
No, we're never that far off with the
I put Paris really
rankings.
high, I think.
I think
Bren picked them to win the
had them pretty low.
Bren picked them to win the league after 3 games. I mean, Bren was like Bren instantly was like, oh yeah, this Exit guy's great. They're gonna win the whole thing.
I actually do though. I think that the thing that you need, right? This is just a standard need
you
now,
be
and this has been proven over the
anyone about anything.
This is proven over the last 2 years, Matt. All right, now sit down and listen, okay? That you need good coaching structure. You need a good foundation of coaches. They are the cement. As you create your little square foundation out of wood, and you're filling in the cement. Ooh, a little bit of 9K, a little bit of rush.
Oh, here we go. Where were they?
Where do we have them?
Oh, Josh.
Paris in 17th.
Yeah. They were
you guys are morons.
Listen, you have a fucking main tank line of Ben Best and No Smite. You expect that to be bad. They revitalized so many careers this year. They really did.
Look at
weird,
hair, bro.
He looks like one of those chia pets, actually.
Dude, you look so
That's
much better without your hair.
You water it and the chia seeds grow out and it grows out the hair.
Josh, you know, you just reminded me. You look so much like Joe Rogan more and more each day.
What?
It's insane.
Now?
Yes.
Well, he's bald, isn't he?
With your facial hair is the same as Joe Rogan's. Your bald head, if you, I swear to God, and you do this weird thing where you're smiling with your weird wide eyes that Joe Rogan does. He does the exact same. Yeah, that is it, dude. You look so much like Joe Rogan.
That's the worst. Like, you look like this person I think I've ever heard.
I don't think my nose or jaw structure is anything like Joe Rogan.
That looks like Sideshow.
How is that anything like me?
Looks nothing like
Bro,
Sideshow.
If you find a thumbnail, Kurt, of like Joe Rogan sweaty, he takes these pictures of him sweating after the gym.
So I look like sweaty Joe
Wet Joe Rogan is.
I look like a damn Joe Rogan.
Yeah. I think you do, genuinely. What were we talking about?
Paris being 17th
Paris
on the
getting
Papega
third
list.
and then fourth overall.
I
think we've exhausted this though, because now we're saying Sideshow looks like a wet Joe Rogan.
I think Kurt is searching up sweaty Joe Rogan as it stands, trying to find a
So
picture.
here's my counterpoint though, Bren, genuinely, is that well-coached teams like the Paris Eternal, I'm not sure whether they have the same style of coaching as a shock team does. A shock team can go into a map and adapt really fast because their coaches have taught them how to think about the game really well. But a Paris kind of coach team seems to come into every map with a good idea of what they want to play in the map, what the strat is, and how to execute it. But I'm not so sure that they can adapt on the fly and play all the heroes and just be like super malleable in that same kind of way. And if you give me a chaotic meta, I don't know whether Paris are going to deal with that as well.
Counter argument. There it is.
He looks nothing like Josh.
Dude, that looks exactly like Josh. Yeah, dude. You're telling me that doesn't look like Josh.
I see it. I actually
You're telling me that does not look like Josh.
I actually see it. Oh my god, that is incredible.
I saw this in Josh 2 years ago, and I see it again now.
That's it.
Should I just get fucking ripped?
Yes.
Like outrageously swollen. See how close I can get to Joe.
Oh,
I need
that's
someone
incredible.
to like smack me in the nose though. He has a much flatter nose than
That'll
I
happen
do.
with age. Don't worry about that.
You should do.
I think I need to go in and get in a fight and have someone hit me in the nose.
Oh, we
Just
can
a
do that
couple
for
of
you right
breaks.
now.
He was.
should
I mean,
get
he
one
is
of
a
those,
martial artist.
Yeah, he does
Get one of those
jujitsu.
Wii Fit rings, Josh, and do workout streams.
Okay, but my counter argument to Josh about your point saying you don't think Paris can adapt because they haven't showcased it. They don't have the same coaching style. 9K's come in and it's directly brought in a lot of that coaching style. I think of making sure that the players are ready to come into a game, and if somebody throws something at them, they'll be able to adapt. The downside is the Paris lineup, with whatever roster they field, generally speaking, leans more towards set executed strategies because they have much more limited hero pools compared to the Shocks.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I do think that they would be able to adapt on the fly in terms of strategically what a team is throwing at them, but the tools that they have to respond are much more limited, which is why you probably come to that conclusion.
Yeah, I agree with you, but isn't that kind of the same consequence though, that they might struggle in a chaotic meta?
Yeah,
maybe.
You could get in a position where the other team is kind of countering what you've set your strategy to be, and you don't really have many options with the players you have in the lineup to move off of that.
That could also happen, by the way, even to a team like Philadelphia, because as much as they look amazing when they have like Carpe and Hisu in, Hisu has had rare moments of being amazing on hit scan, but generally speaking, he's only really played the Sombra to that elite level.
Yeah.
Their double hit scan look is all right. It's pretty good. But in terms of their overall flexibility, if they try and run that kind of stuff, they're limited a bit more. Like you're trying to run Carpe Hisu. If you want to adapt from a Sombra to a Tracer, that's not the lineup that's going to get you as much success as like a Striker Ants.
Let's move over.
That's a good point.
I want to move over across the pond, not the pond going over to the UK, but the other one towards China.
The large pond.
I want to talk about APAC. I don't know why you emphasized APAC so much there, but let's talk about Shanghai because they have got the #1 seed in the APAC region.
I'm shocked.
I mean, okay, you say that, but it hasn't been easy at times for them when they've been going up against certain teams. Certain teams have looked good. They've come online, but was this ever... My question was, but then Matt interjected and it kind of ruins my question is, was this ever in doubt that Shanghai would get the #1 seed?
All right. I didn't realize up until literally a few days ago that we were going based on win percentage, which I'm going to go out there. I don't know why the fuck that was the rolling that we went with this year. I think the people had to just adapt on the fly to the COVID situation and came up with the rule because it sounded like it would work at the time, which, you know, is up to us to spot as well as talent. We get consulted on these kind of things.
Yeah, we could have brought it up.
Recognize it at the time.
Yeah.
It's like partially my fault. But I look at Asia and genuinely it was months ago that Shanghai locked this position up because they have 5 less losses than the Guangzhou Charge, which means that all of those tournament wins weren't even relevant. Like, didn't even matter that any of the tournaments were won by them. They could have deliberately tanked all of the tournaments, and they could have won this by a fucking country mile.
Just looking at the standings with like map differential, Shanghai, Philly, and the Shock are so far ahead of everybody else in terms of like how they've been blowing people out. Like usually, like after the top, like from what we've seen the past 2 seasons. It's a little bit more spread out than this, right? This just seems like it was 3 teams beating the doors off of everybody, and then everybody else just kind of like moseying their way on through.
I mean, you look at like their
plus 44. Jesus Christ.
If you look at like their wins, so 17. Map wins per series is something that I've been looking at a little bit to compare.
The losses you need to pay attention to. With this, as opposed to the differential, it's I suppose the differential does help, but the losses is the big one.
Yeah, the losses.
Yeah, the losses is what actually puts you at the top of the table. Yeah, I mean, I calculated that even if if Philly and Shock had never played in any tournaments, and then you just gifted all the tournament wins to the Shock and none to the Fusion, they still wouldn't overtake them. So like all of the tournament wins all throughout the season would not overtake that extra single loss that the Shock had, which is kind of absolutely mental.
But at least they got paid though.
I ran some numbers on the Boston Uprising, and I think you guys are
let's hear it.
They're pretty good. All right, so if you look at average map wins per series, which is a cool way of comparing this year to last year, because in a loss, if you get 4-0'd or 3-0'd, obviously your map differential is -4 in the previous year because there were more maps to be played. So it can get a little bit biased in the previous years, like Shanghai Dragons sat at -120 map differential.
I just looked at that.
Yeah. Wow. But if you go based on map wins per series, like average map win per series, you get some really interesting numbers. And the Boston Uprising from this year are the 2nd worst team of all time after the Shanghai Dragons of 2018. Yeah. And the Shanghai Dragons of 2018 averaged 0.52 map wins per series. So most of the time they were evenly going like 4-0 or 4-3-1, whatever the fuck it is. It was 4 maps. It was a weird system.
Yeah.
So they're either getting 0 or 1. The Boston Uprising this year is at 0.7. So they are barely above the Shanghai Dragons of 2018. It just hasn't been dragged out as
we did a head-to-heads, and we raised the case for Boston. This is like months ago, being worse than the 0-40 Dragons.
Yeah, and the next worst is like a whole other 0.25 jump upwards.
Mayhem year 1.
Yeah, it's Mayhem year 1 and 2019.
Mayhem year 2. Yeah.
Mayhem 2018 got 1 map per series. Mayhem 2019 and Boston 2019 got 1.4 maps per series. So like historically shite performance this year from the Boston Uprising.
I feel so bad for the players on Boston.
That is absurd, isn't it? Wow.
That feels bad.
That's what's kind of nice about seeing Fearless and Geggery being able to play for this Shanghai. It's like you don't remember them for what happened in year 1, because to be fair to them, I mean, they didn't really get a fair shot year 1, right? They brought them in like the middle, like there was nothing turning that team around.
No,
so you couldn't really help it. But seeing them play and do well with this team, it's nice to see. They are so far ahead in APAC.
I can see it to be much less likely that Shanghai get upset in the APAC region, just on the basis that there are less teams that I can imagine being competitive with them. But is there an argument to be made that if Shanghai end up winning the Overwatch League this year, we have never seen a more dominant team in Overwatch?
I don't agree with that, but
Some people are going to disagree with that purely based on the numbers in terms of they actually lost games, and there's some teams that have gone on ridiculous win streaks. But when you look at how, just from the eye test, looking at these teams and breaking down, if you were to weigh up each team against each other, Shanghai have consistently looked above most of the region they're in, and also they've looked consistently quite well above most of the NA region, with the only team that we could really stand up to them being Shock, maybe Philly, maybe Paris.
It's difficult to tell because we haven't seen them play in such a long time. I think it's actually almost impossible to call that at all because Shanghai are exceptional. And if you play, for example, this is going to be a really dumb example, but if you play like 6 Grandmaster players against, 6 Plat players, like it's always going to be like hyper dominant, like whoa, they're insane. Do you know what I mean? And then if you play in a region with more varied teams and whatnot, like it's going to look a little less like super dominant. I do argue though, I do think Shanghai will win Overwatch this year. I do.
If you're going to put a bet on any team, I think you would put your bet on Shanghai.
Yes, Shanghai would be the most likely.
But I'm making the argument that it looks maybe a little bit too biased in that direction of Shanghai because the teams overall in APAC could be seen as a little bit weaker.
I don't think they are.
I've been going back and forth on
Paris. APAC has been the stronger region across the board.
Yeah,
but but there's only one team on the upper end.
Yeah,
whereas in NA there isn't.
I don't think so. I think there's probably multiple teams on the upper end. We just can't really tell because Shanghai are that dominant.
I also think it's really difficult to kind of say that they're like I don't remember the exact wording you use, but the most dominant performance, right? From a team, Bren, right?
What?
You said that they're the most dominant team, like the most dominant performance.
I'm just trying to basically spur some discussion on this, but basically. It's like an idea that is Shanghai the most dominant team that we've ever seen in Overwatch because they've just been dominant. They've dominated a region that has been quite good.
There's no bad teams. It doesn't have any.
It doesn't have any bad teams,
and they still look really, really good. And if you were to eye up the regions from across one another at the same time, roughly speaking, Shanghai looked like they could handle most teams, including Shock.
Let's say they don't win. Are they just New York season 1?
Maybe, yeah.
Right? I think it's very hard to draw these comparisons, though.
Because it's different metas. It's different.
Not even that, but they just never got an opportunity to play some other top team. You can't be dominant if you haven't had a chance to dominate.
Bren wants the talking stick.
Yeah, what?
Sorry to interrupt. I've got an ant on me. Dead now.
That was it.
No, that
just
wasn't
an update from the Ant Wars. I finally crushed the king.
Like, do they have to win?
Hear me out.
Yeah.
Double off tank meta. Shanghai, how many players do they have right now?
11, 12.
Have they got 12? Someone might have to take a back seat, unfortunately.
They've got a lot of players. I don't know exactly how many.
Playoffs rolls around. Okay.
Yeah.
They actually might have 12 players. Wow. Someone's gonna have to go. Someone's gonna have to go for this idea to take worse. I don't care who it is.
They have 12, including Dia, who is a 2-way.
Okay, so you just sack off Dia for a short period of time.
Why?
Here's my thought process.
Go on.
Shanghai Dragons this entire year has been a year of redemption for them. Previous worst team in the league season 1, maybe even going on to win it. Fearless coming through with his redemption arc. The one player in my mind who has done the most dirty in the longest time, I think, out of a lot of stuff, Youngjin.
Oh, Youngjin, okay. Yeah.
I thought
actually,
Youngjin got done
dirty.
I thought you were going to say run MG and Jushu.
Yeah.
Roshan, bro. Bring Roshan back. No. Youngjin got done so dirty by 222 Lock because that guy was an integral part for his team winning Stage 3 last year. His niche, his role, his speciality of the fact that he could flex over to all these different positions and play these niche heroes just evaporated to the wind. Like I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. Yes, sorry, Youngjin. See you later. No career for you. He could play for Shanghai. Bring him in. 14-day contract for the playoffs. Comes in with the Roadhog. Comes in with the Roadhog, Matt.
I want to just know how your brain works. We were talking about how this could be the best dynasty of all time. As soon as I mentioned if they didn't win, they could look like New York, something clicked in your brain about Youngjin getting done dirty by the Shanghai Dragons, and they need to decide.
Yeah, I don't know
what was the thought process there.
I thought you were going to say Addo.
I don't know what triggered it. I mean,
I thought he was
Addo
gonna say Addo as well.
Definitely
I
got
thought
done dirty. But
I thought Addo
Youngin,
was
in my
a good player.
opinion, got done dirty not by like the team itself, but just by the game. Like that's when does that happen? Like there's just the format changed to just put him out of a job.
So let's say Shanghai goes and they get second. Do you still feel the same way?
What?
Like they were still a historically dominant team the whole year.
If they got second this year, depends who they lost to. If they lost to the event,
Shock or Philly?
If they get upset in some weird meta stuff, I don't think so. No, I think you need to win the entire year. But that's why I said when I made this argument is, let's say they win the Overwatch League. That was the entire premise of the argument. If they come second, that doesn't stand because you need to win it all, in my opinion, for that to even be in question, right? Yeah. Where's Joe Rogan gone?
He left for a bit. But typically, though, like
Rogan Josh.
I mean,
nice
typically, like last year, I think was something that kind of last year was interesting because we had two teams who were so like hyper dominant the whole year that like we kind of knew it was just a matter of time. But San Francisco still lost round one. Like typically we don't get like New York like year one plus 83 map differential, 126. They were 34-6. They didn't even sniff getting close to the finals. And with a meta change like this, one of those teams is gonna get got.
I think they might be both teams, and even your conversation earlier about Shanghai being more likely to get through.
I almost disagree with that because you can't make the argument that whole like there's a better chance somebody from that region like rises up from the bottom who can be pretty decent and off meta than like the bottom of NA. Like the bottom teams in NA, you don't really have to worry about if you're the Paris, Florida, but like
there's more chance of Chengdu rising up than Boston
or Hangzhou or somebody along those lines, which I think that makes it harder for Shanghai to get out. Now saying that, I think they do, but in a world which they lose to a Hangzhou or Guangzhou and they have to then go play like a do or die game against a New York or something like that, it's a fucking coin flip at that point. I mean, those games just go crazy.
I mean, the way to think about it as well is if you're going to put a percentage chance on each team winning the Overwatch League, you'd have the highest percentage chance probably for Shanghai, or maybe you would have it for the Shock, but I think Shanghai probably. But that percentage chance would still only be 20%, 25%, something like that. There's still a much larger chance of a bunch.
So extremely compared to
how many APAC teams would you have to run through before you got to like some of the middle of the pack NA to win? Like let's say for argument's sake we listed out all of the teams that had the best chance. Like what you think outside of Philly and Shock, you would probably put
it depends what you're saying middle of the pack is, but I think London's been about the same level as Houston or something, or like Atlanta for this whole season.
Right, but you put like Hangzhou's chance better than like a Gladiators or Atlanta or
I think Spark went over Glads.
I mean, you kind of look at it like all of the other.
Let's talk then about these teams though. Let's talk about some of these because recently two teams that I think if you prompted this question maybe 3 months ago. Was it 3 months ago? Time is a mystery to me these days. Maybe it was only a month ago. But if you said Valiant and Florida, because at a certain point, they looked like the best teams in the league based on how well they were performing.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, for that very small amount of time when people were playing Tracer Ash.
Oh, that meta.
Yeah, the Tracer Ash meta.
Shaxx, Tracer.
But recently, these two teams had a little bit of a spat. You know, they slapped hands. The Valiant ended up reverse sweeping them. We don't need to focus on the specifics. The meta's kind of weird right now. But, I mean, I could see a world in which Valiant or Florida end up just sneaking by and they make it into the playoffs and suddenly they just go on an absolute tear because they have figured out the specific meta.
I think Florida a much better chance than the Valiant, I think.
So?
I think so.
I think so. Just going on the fact that their DPS are a little bit more flexible, I think. I think Valiant have the depth in certain respects, but you don't really ever see Shaxx on non-Tracer. KSP can play a couple other things. They obviously can play the Ashe, Widow obviously most famously, but I think Mayhem would have the edge over it.
It would be a real shame to have a team like that, I think, win at the end of the season. Like, no matter who it is, like even if it's a Chengdu or something like that, to have the meta just kind of fall in the lap of one of the middle of the pack teams would kind of suck.
Isn't that how we felt about London in season 1 though?
No, because like I said, I think a lot of people love to bring this up. Like the casual fan loves to bring up the same point of like, well, London just went on a miracle run and everyone was fine with that. But London won stage 1. They won everything before the Overwatch League, like that core of that team as well. We always knew that they had championship caliber. Like if a team like the Valiant or the Mayhem or Chengdu or something like that ends up going on a big run, it's going to feel like insane, but it'll also feel like kind of fucked it.
The Mayhem at least made it to a stage final, though.
Yeah,
like a cup final. I mean, it's possible though. Like,
Bro,
I mean, we're really looking
it's
at
very
something
possible.
Like that, yeah,
and I think people need to respect that. But also, Josh, you were saying like, yeah, they looked really, really good, but there was the middle period between stage 1 when they won it, from stage 2 all the way up until the playoffs, right until the end of playoffs, where they looked really bad.
They had dips and dives for sure, but they didn't just go immediately to trash tier. They were very inconsistent, but they had like they had chances of doing
they
all
were
right in some
getting
of the other
smashed.
Nah, man. I mean, if you look at the stage win rates and stuff, I think they were like average, but they weren't horrible.
The only thing I want.
The one thing you learn about those playoffs, by the way, which actually could come back to be a thing in this playoffs,
like London finished second in stage 2.
Yeah,
they went 8-2 in stage 2. They just didn't win the finals.
The thing we learned about in that playoffs was how like when you do not have a good enough Widow to kind of go, like you can't win. Like I mean, when Philly played New York and they just couldn't. You couldn't go toe to toe with like Carpe's Widow. Birdring, I mean, obviously he was incredible in those playoffs on the Widowmaker as well. Anytime you get a Widowmaker meta, it is so. I mean, even when you play ranked, Widow is the one hero who can dominate a game, and there's not really much the other team can do. Where it makes it dangerous for some of these teams because Widow's also a hero. Bren, you know this. When you get boomed a few times, it can do a little bit to your mental, a little bit to your confidence.
It doesn't happen to me.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
It's like never happened.
I don't take ego jewels.
Look at what you did to Achilles.
What would you define as an ego duel? Just a classic 1v1 or like a jump shot?
Just trying to basically, if you're getting pounded, to be like, I ain't switching. There's no way I'm switching.
That's you.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
That's the definition of brand.
That's you. That's you.
I mean, previously, when 2-2 didn't exist, I would switch to Wrecking Ball, and then I would fly into him, and I would kill him.
Yeah.
The true
I
ego duel.
very much going from Widowmaker to just a feed machine.
Do we know this is something we haven't talked about? Do we know what the rest of the seeding looks like for APAC? For playoffs?
I did some rough calculations earlier, but I'm not totally sure yet. What was it?
Right now, it looks like the Charge are in second, and they're at 18-7, so they're done for the season, right?
Yeah, and they're definitely locked into number 2.
Oh, okay.
Because nobody can. They finished their matches, and nobody can lose less.
Well,
like that's what it's all about, right? It's about losing less.
And it doesn't look like New York can lose less than Seoul, which is interesting because Seoul's starting to look pretty decent. And then you would have like a Seoul Shanghai game potentially in like a playoff,
profit
right?
Pocket, dude. Seoul look good.
That could be pretty good.
The profit pocket.
You want me to
pretty spicy? Yeah.
You want me to treat you guys a little bit?
What are you treating us to? That's the question.
Should we move on over to the power rankings or what?
Yeah, let's do power rankings.
Okay, let's talk about the power rankings then, because these God, what do we do these power rankings for? Is it expectations coming into playoffs? Current rankings of where we think these teams belong?
Our power rankings here were expectations looking forward for the rest of the season. So, like, based on what we've seen so far, where do we think these guys will be able to,
we ignore
finish?
makeup games then?
with the state that the game is in with the patch, can you even do that?
I mean,
you just ignore the hero pool games. That's what I do. But the patch obviously is like the god. Well, what I call the god patch. Right? So I guess just expectations. Your guys' power rankings, but I mean,
you also we have no idea what the meta is going to be, so it's impossible to make any kind of meta predictions. So you kind of just have to go on what you've seen so far this year, because it could be anything, right? Like it could be double off tank. We could go back to rush. We could be playing dive.
You would weigh up the flexibility of the teams. Would be a big one. Anyway, let's do power rankings. Let's pull it up. Let's have a look. Because I mean we got to go for it. Johnny's going to be rolling in his bed sheets. I mean, I'm not going to say grave because he's not dead, but I mean he's going to be rolling his bed sheets when he sees what we've done to these power rankings after we're done. George, you want to just do the whole thing?
Yeah.
No, not allowed actually. I was actually kind of expecting to say no.
No, I want to do it.
Okay, so
this is good. Keep it.
This is bonkers. We've got Chengdu in between.
Oh yeah.
I forgot about
I watched this and I wondered what was happening.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what you guys were on.
Let's put Chengdu back with the APAC teams.
Probably a good idea.
What a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's put another tier break between the NA and Asian teams.
Put them there for now. Yeah, put Chengdu with the rest of APAC for now. Let's
I think we keep Shock at number 1, right? Because even though they lost to the Philadelphia Fusion, and there are definitely metas in which the Shock could lose, they've still got to be your favorites coming into the playoffs because...
Just betting that it'll be a winner meta.
Yeah. I mean, Wolf actually tweeted something like, Philly had the more consistent season this year. Which literally they did, but if you include any of the tournament results, they absolutely did not.
Ooh, I'm actually noticing a bit of beef between you and Wolf. Like, there's something going on here, man. There's like some subtweeting going on.
There is subtweeting. I've seen
some like some takes out there into the world, you know, and so nobody else tweets genuine takes. They just
I tweet genuine takes all the time. You see my tweet feed.
Your
Josh.
Twitter feed is a fucking meme fest. There's nothing going on. The only reason that I engage with Wolf is because Wolf's the only person that puts out analytical content or like analytical takes into the world.
Did you not see my picture of Color Hex down the coolware of Anubis?
When he made a Linkser meme on Gibraltar, the player the
Color Hex one's better. It's just him on Torb and Anubis, just at the long ass corridor, and he's just sitting there. It's good. It's good tweet.
You are stupid.
There you go. Look at him. Look at him.
What is this?
He's just chilling.
Okay, so what was happening here is who are they playing? Because I casted this and it was hilarious.
So funny.
What is the caption of this?
So hold on, I casted this and I can tell you exactly why they did it. Because let me find the game.
I'm so confused by Zoomers.
It was Boston Gladiators.
Yeah, and he didn't want to feed ult charge to the support, so he just changed to Torb and stood there.
Right there, OG was just sitting on Winston, and they were just farming up nano boost. So the Color X didn't want to do damage to him, so they just stood there and stared at each other for I don't know.
It was really
15
funny.
seconds, 20 seconds.
He like swings his hammer a little bit. It was really good.
Yep. And then OG would just try and chase him into the spawn and force him to do damage, and Color Hex would just walk into the spawn, then he'd walk out, and they would just look at each other.
Why are the two oldest people on the podcast the ones that are most into this Zoomer meme? Are you guys trying to recapture your youth with Temple of Anubis Color Hex?
I'm not trying to say it was a good meme. I was just trying to explain what we just saw.
Well, thank you, Grandpa. I now understand.
People also just
guy says grandpa. He's like 2 days away from having that like U-shaped haircut with the like legit grandpa with the back. Yeah, look at that shit, bro.
Word, you need to shave that again.
Oh my lord! Put the headset back on.
God,
I'm definitely trying to recapture my youth with this haircut.
At least I look young. Thank God for that.
Yeah, George.
Someone thought I was 22 the other day.
I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, it's not. I mean, you might get ID'd more at bars, but you'd rather look younger than older.
Let's go back to the NA rankings.
Our rankings.
Let's go.
Okay, I think Shock at number 1. That's a standard. I think Philly. Here's the thing, though. Yeah, I mean, in terms of expectations with flexibility, I would say Shock at number 1.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Agreed.
I think so.
Because some people are going to be annoyed, like, oh, but Philly's again the Philly fans. I think they have a bit of a right to be angry here. I mean, they're just generally quite angsty in general. But
They always come second.
yeah, I mean, yeah, and we're just kind of speaking it into existence here. But I do think
Shock have also beaten them more times this season. Like,
Yeah, so
they
Shock-
traded
Shock in
wins
number
in the
one.
regular season, and then Shock also beat them in the tournament. So
Philly definitely number 2. I would say Paris definitely number 3.
Can you make an argument for Florida at number 3?
I don't
Bang on,
personally
meta.
think so. I mean, they just lost to the fucking Valiant because they can't keep their heads in the game when it goes long.
That's true. Never mind.
They actually do lose control of a series the longer it goes as well. They nearly got reverse swept by the Houston Outlaws a couple of weeks ago too.
Oh,
Yeah, fair point.
Like they
do
do
remember that.
struggle to keep their focus in these longer
Who
games.
is the 4th best team?
Mayhem.
I think you still have to say Mayhem though.
I think
like,
top 4 is
consistency
perfect.
over the course of the season. It's been the Mayhem.
Yeah, I think so.
I actually
I think
think the
though
rest of
that
the list
tier
is
break-
fine, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah.
I know he's fine.
I think this is fine. Valiant, Rain, Glads. Yeah, I would
Do
say
you feel a
that's-
little better about the Gladiators than you do about the Rain?
Yeah.
We haven't
The
seen the
Rain-
Gladiators play this meta though.
The Rain had been a little bit papige.
I
But-
feel much better about Gladiators being higher than the Rain here, but
I just like, are they going to reboom? I feel better about Gladiators over the last couple of weeks. Definitely, it feels like they found their footing.
I'm telling you, Mirror.
Mirror's good. If there's a Doomfist meta, Gladiators are going to be sick.
I mean, Gladiators also the team that lost to the Boston Uprising.
Yes,
early in this
I
season.
still have confidence for the Glads over the last couple of weeks, but as a season as a whole and going into playoffs, like I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm all over the place with that. I definitely think you could swap them around. I think they're about equal, to be fair, Glads and Rain, because they
I'd rather
both
have the Rain a
had
little
some
higher, I think.
Papega matches, but then some of the matches are pretty good. So it's sometimes hard to tell.
I think the Gladiators have looked pretty good. I think Birdring had a really good showing on the
Yeah.
Widow, but yet again, it was against
Literally
Boston,
solo
though,
carrying
so-
Gladiators sometimes.
Yep.
What do you think? Atlanta or Gladiators?
I'm cool with Gladiators.
I'm happy
I
with
think
this, yeah.
Gladiators. Yeah.
All right.
Anyone else that you would
You sound
consider
angsty,
moving
Josh.
around? No, I don't think so.
I mean,
Yeah, put Gladiators above Rain. I think that's it, really,
I like
right?
that. Yeah.
yeah, maybe that tier break is in the wrong place though, because it does kind of feel like Florida might be. No, sorry, not that one. The one above it, because I don't really
No.
know. I don't know.
I quite like this change, to be honest.
Like maybe the tier break
Yeah.
should even
Yeah.
be above Paris, if we're looking at the season overall.
That would make more sense than it being above Mayhem and Paris being on top. Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
We're taking.
I prefer this.
We're taking in the season overall, the expectations moving into the playoffs.
I still put a tier break between Mayhem Valiant. Although they did have that close game, and it
You
was
think?
a sick, nasty game. No, not that one. Sorry, Kurt.
Like
Yeah.
an extra
We're running
one. You
out of
want an
tier
extra one in
breaks.
there.
Sorry.
I don't think you need an extra one. I
No?
think that I don't know. Maybe no. I actually just think
They had the
like,
close game, which is fair. I think, if anything, you put it between Gladiators and Valiant, to be honest. But yeah. Just keep adding
Yeah.
more.
Oh, God.
Kurt, add 6 more.
Oh,
we got more. We can add more.
We do have more.
Mate, put them in everywhere. Put
them in
every team
everywhere.
separate them
Every
in tier
team has
break.
a separation. The tier break.
Fuel in their own tier.
Oh my
break.
god,
Oh
it's
my
chaos.
God.
Wonderful.
Hope tier break
Wonderful.
wins the Overwatch League at the end of the year. Hope tier break. Oh, they win. Yes, that's about right. Yep, tier break wins.
God, what?
That's the Shanghai tier break at the top.
Yeah.
Can
yeah.
we? Okay.
All right, let's undo the
Jokes
tier break
aside.
madness.
Jokes aside, what about? Are we okay with dude? Oh man, why am I even saying this? I'm going to put my foot
Yeah,
down.
we're okay with
Three,
the
at
middle
the,
of the
three,
pack.
2 at the top, 6 in the middle.
Yeah, let's move that tier break just above Dallas, though. There is genuinely a tier break between Atlanta and Dallas.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
5 in the middle,
I like this.
and then the rest of them you've got Dallas, Toronto, Outlaws, Vancouver. At this point, you're
What about-
arguing over
wait,
scraps.
Wait. Something that I forgot to even add in this week. How the fuck did we miss this from the topic list? Decay joined the Washington Justice.
Oh yeah, that happened.
True, actually.
Mother
yeah.
of God, I forgot about that occurring.
Justice
Justice are
good. Move 'em up.
surely going to look better. Like, they already looked like they were on the rise. They're surely
Yeah,
going to look like
genuinely.
an okay team.
I think they move up.
Decay is an infinite upgrade from Stitch, right?
Yeah. I mean, definitely.
Maybe they look better with like hit scan Sombra meta, right? Stitch is not bad at Sombra.
Yeah, they could play double hit scan and they'd look pretty decent at it as well. Like, Stitch isn't atrocious.
We'll see how it looks against San Francisco on Saturday.
Yeah, that's who they're playing against.
If we go for expectations, I think Justice below Fuel.
No way.
No, get the fuck off the show. Get off the show. No way. There's no way. Above all those teams, F-bomb. Kurt, if you ever want to see ad revenue, Kurt, put the Justice all the way back down.
Sorry, what? You said the Justice down, above
Toronto.
And Kurt's just put Justice at the top of the league.
No, get them down.
Kurt's on my side.
Hold on, but where did you want them?
Jaws said that they should be above everybody in that tier except Dallas.
I think that's reasonable.
How is that reasonable?
I actually think that's very reasonable.
Data to go on at all.
But this is partly speculation in terms of how we would expect them to perform for the playoffs. And adding Decay is a huge bonus. He was one of the hottest commodities before this season.
But they still have so many problems. Like, their teamwork is horse shit. Their
backlines look so bad. Josh, look at what Decay did for Dallas.
Arc is still there, like.
Look at what Decay did for Dallas. Imagine what he can do in Washington.
With a full Korean team, too.
Players.
Dallas arguably has a better system. Like, Gamsu Note tank line feeds less than a raw tank line. No matter
that's why we put them below Dallas. Fuel.
My expectation is they go above Outlaws at least.
I would
especially
like to
in this.
If this was up to me, I put Washington there. I put Outlaws below the Fuel.
Outlaws already below the Fuel, mate.
But I mean, like just below them.
Yeah, actually, Outlaws maybe have got a bit of a. They've been
all right. I think across the season, they have been. They've had moments of brilliance.
And if there's a winner meta,
that is the dumbest of minute and 30 seconds we've ever spent on this show.
I don't think that's true.
I'm kind of pissed that Justice have gone with Decay though. If we go to the bigger picture conversation here for a moment, I tweeted about this and I got a bunch of fucking flack from it by angry Justice fans who were just mauling that I can't ever say anything nice about their team that has been arguably the worst organization in the Overwatch League for fucking 2 years running. Which, sorry, I don't make the rules. But the Justice picking up Decay I don't like for multiple reasons. For starters, I don't think this is really what the emergency rule was supposed to do. Like, the whole point of that rule was to say, if you have players that are unable to travel for playoffs, we'll let you pick up an emergency.
They were also at the bottom of the barrel in terms of like the amount of players they had.
Yeah,
right?
Because Lulchesters had visa issues. Technically, that's the reason that they were able to pick him up. Right. But they're clearly not going to be a playoff team, or they wouldn't have been a playoff team. And he's not even replacing the person that had travel issues. Like, he's replacing Lulsish. Like, is he going to play?
Well, I think the idea is that they wouldn't have been able to field a team otherwise, right?
Right, but that's not true. Because Lulsish is never going to be fielded ever in the first place. So, I mean, it's a total technicality.
You never know.
But if we ignore that aspect, I like that Decay is back in the league. I love the guy. I think that he's a phenomenal player. He absolutely should have been playing. I wish that we had seen him actually replacing some other star on another team that had playoff hopes. But also, for Justice to shell out what is undoubtedly gigabuck kind of money to get Decay for the end of the season. There's no way that guy was cheap. Like, some people are speculating that he was just sat there at home, like, counting his pennies, like, oh no, woe is me, I don't have a team, I won't be getting paid. That guy must have been raking it in this season for the Dallas Fuel based on his
the airport in a Gucci backpack, dude. He was chilling.
Yeah, no fucking way. Like, he wasn't desperate to sign a contract. The Justice must have offered him big buckaroonies here to play for them. And the only reason Justice would shell out that kind of money is because they're trying to attract him for 2021. They're not just going to pay the money to try and get, into the playoffs. No. There's fucking no hope for them.
But I like it, though. Because the Justice, they sign them, and then they're like, look, we will just sign whoever the hell you tell us to in the offseason. Tell us who you want to play with, and we'll just make it happen.
That's the only scenario in which it makes sense, right? Is if they actually turn into a team that is willing to shell out giga money.
Because if you're Decay, there's no other team in the league that you can go to and be like, yo, I'm just going to decide who plays for us. Everybody else would be like, oh, well, we have this guy, we have that guy. The Justice are a clean slate, pretty much. It's just like,
it's a clean slate as long as you trust the promises that they're giving to you as well. And trust as well, Matt, that they will actually be able to attract that kind of talent. Because at the moment, the only attraction is Decay. You would not sign to that team to play with anyone else that they have in the roster. Maybe Jano if it's a diva meta, but like they don't have any other big names. Whereas every other team that attracts talent has multiple big names.
Here's what I can tell you. If you're looking to sign with the Justice, I went to one of their homestands. It was really nice.
It was.
Right by the water.
It was super sick.
It was. DC's not bad.
Yeah, DC was awesome. The events were awesome. Their team, though, has had a history of being shy.
They had a really good coffee place.
Yeah, Smithsonian.
But I feel like Matt's trying to balance out this negativity, but I mean, I think that Josh is making some valid points, though. It kind of doesn't make too much sense. Like, why would you refuse to play because your team is shit and then join a shit team?
Exactly. This is the other part of it as well, is that part of the rumor about why he wasn't wanting to play is because he'd been carrying this poopy team that he signed to for $1 bajillion, and that was the reason that he signed. Or, part of the reason at least. Like, why would you do the same thing again where a team's offering you $1 bajillion, but they're at the bottom of the thing? Unless they literally say to you, we promise we will build an amazing team around you. And even then, you can't guarantee that they'll be able to attract that kind of talent.
There could be friends on the Justice too. Come play with your friends for $1 Brazilian. It's like, yeah, of course. Like, why wouldn't I do that?
I want to see really bad Justice Fuel in the playoffs with Decay playing for the Justice.
You might see it.
That'd be sick.
Everyone's seeing, aren't they?
It would be so sick. If like Decay, imagine Decay just like pops off and just goes like ape shit for a series and just dunks in them. Like, the story there is so juicy.
I've got another problem here, though. I'm sorry, Bren. I've got another problem, though. Because your argument about why, maybe he's just doing it for the back. Maybe he's just playing with his friends for a while, like Raw and Aim God he's played with in the past. And he's got good synergy with them. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But if the Justice are actually trying to attract him for next season, you think he's going to tell them to kick his friends to make a good team? I don't know whether Decay's that fucking ruthless to kick the guys that he actually enjoys playing with. And if he doesn't kick Raw and Aim God, that ain't going to be a good team. You're telling me they can attract 3 other good players to make a championship caliber roster when you still have those guys on the team? No chance. So if it is him wanting to play with them because he's his friends, that makes the 2021 argument even worse, like even more problems.
Yeah.
My rant's over.
Anyway, so Washington
move up.
Justice.
No, they don't move up. We haven't.
I think they're going to be better than Toronto.
Yes,
100%.
I agree.
Like, at least compromise here, where you've got Dallas, Houston, Justice.
Have you seen Logic's like Widow stats the whole year? He's been like kind of pooing.
Why the fuck are we so determined that Widowmakers will be played in this meta where we don't even know what a meta is?
I mean, if there was going to be any hero, you would
with the shock and the
map pool might not suit it. It might be.
But also,
Ball,
Decay is
Winston,
outrageous. I mean, if you're predicting a Widow meta, then Decay is unbelievable.
Fine, put them above Toronto. Put them above Toronto. Everybody deserves a week.
APAC. That's where the meat is, and by meat I mean it's a little bit skin and bones, but we can get something out of it. You can usually make a nice broth out of bones. So let's take a look at APAC. Josh, you're chewing your lip over what?
No, I'm just chewing my lip because I'm mad still thinking about fucking Justice.
Does London move down to the bottom?
Shanghai number 1, London at the bottom. That's what we know thus far.
Yep.
Okay, from this.
Soul above Spa.
We can't see it. It's so hard.
Can we put Chengdu above Seoul?
There we go. Soul above Spa.
It's hard because we haven't seen
Chengdu hear me out.
Play.
We haven't seen Chengdu, and we won't see Chengdu either
until the playoffs. Yeah.
Hear me out.
I think, if there's any team to get value out of a chaotic meta, it really should be Chengdu, theoretically.
I think. Here's what I think.
Oh, Lordy, here it comes. A prophecy.
Hear me out, okay? Hear me out. Shanghai 1. Guangzhou 2. Chengdu 3.
Chengdu 3.
Where'd New York go?
And then this looks good.
But if this is based on flexibility and performance throughout the entire season, Chengdu have to be almost at the bottom. They've only looked good. They've only looked genuinely good in one meta.
Yeah. It's a bit of an ass pull to even make this argument because, you're right. If we're going to be weighing everyone else Chengdu should be near the bottom, but
This is dumb.
God, if there was ever a time for Chengdu to come alive, it would be now, wouldn't it?
I think you've been reading too many fairy tales, Bren.
No,
have you been getting your parents or your friends at home reading your bedtime stories?
I think I've been playing too much of the Golgari adventure deck in Magic the Gathering, which is based around adventures.
I think that's it. Yeah. I think you're insane. Actually insane. I quite like the way it is right now.
Yeah, I am.
There is an argument for putting Chengdu at least above the Spark.
Yeah, that I agree.
I think they can thrive in chaos, like absolutely, and going into the playoffs because we don't know the meta. Although, do I think Ball is going to be meta? Absolutely not. Why
don't you think Ball is going to be meta?
Yeah, why not?
Because I think currently Sombra is just a little bit too good. So Ball is like almost instantly invalidated by the Sombra. I think
I'm okay with Chengdu above Hangzhou.
I say that because
I'm fine with that too because I think they can thrive in the chaos.
Chaotic metas.
Yeah,
and they haven't really lived up to the expectations that we had for them once they added
Architect.
Architect. I mean, they did beat Chengdu recently, but at the same time, I don't know.
Charlie from Always Sunny. It's the wild card. You know, it's actually the actual wild card.
We could and ah over this for eons, and I don't think we'd come to a conclusion.
It's good though.
I don't mind this list.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I think it's very
put Spark
reasonable.
over Hunters, but I think this is.
If it was up to me, it would look like an absolute circus, but thankfully it's not up to me. It's
Thank God for that.
Amalgamation of our opinions, so I think this is reasonable. Is it sealed? Is it done?
Sealed.
Yeah, let's seal it.
It is done. The power rankings is over, and it is time to move into the next segment.
Bren's Player of the Week?
Predictions.
Oh.
You can't skip the predictions, Jaws.
Let's do predictions for the week. So, a little bit last minute, so we haven't got Jaws' predictions, but you can just tell us what you think. So, what is the first match, Kurt, so we can get his predictions with no bias?
This is with this week's hero pools as well, with Zarya, Brig, Genji,
Gladiators
Tracer
versus
Florida.
So, Jaws, who would you pick? Florida for this one? Gladiators versus Florida? Okay.
That's scoreline too? No scoreline, right?
No scoreline. No, we ain't that nerdy.
Yeah, we can.
Ooh.
I thought I would be the only person predicting
really?
the Gladiators.
Me and Matt.
What the fuck?
Why are you guys voting?
Now, I can't speak for Johnny, but okay, my justification was that I could definitely see Gladiators looking. I've already made the justification earlier in this podcast. I can definitely see Gladiators going on a weird run in some weird meta where Mirror is on Zarya and they fall into something and they just heat up and go on a run.
But
Zarya's out of the pool.
Oh,
bro.
sorry. This isn't for playoffs. See, I'm so determined to move on to playoffs. I just wish that these games didn't exist.
I thought we were going to just announce this game and we were going to discuss it.
Yeah, well, I thought I was going for a meme pick. And the reason that I picked the Gladiators is because I do think they have like a chance of winning this game. But also, Gladiators have to win this match in order to ensure that they place above the Valiant and knock the Valiant out of top 10. And so the Gladiators are playing for my hair. This match right here is to ensure that they finish in the fucking top 10 and don't make me shave a fucking Valiant logo into my head.
A bias
that's what's on the line, and I think Deepe will hold that in high regard.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will, Josh.
Why did you go for Florida then, Jack?
Why did you go for Gladiators?
I want to know what the question is. Why did Johnny? Because I have put no thought into this.
Clearly,
Josh hasn't put any thought into this.
I want to know why. Yeah, why
has Johnny put thought into this? But we won't find out.
If I had to guess, I would say Gladiators have looked their best when they play Winston comps, right? And we've seen majority Winston Sombra comps. They've actually looked pretty good with the Sombra as well. They've had like Mirror has got pretty good Sombra stats, and Bren carried last time he was playing the Widowmaker.
Sure.
So in theory, it's like a good meta for them. Get space on the Diva and stuff as well. And the Mayhem kind of looked sloppy in the latter half of their series against the Valiant. So I do see some upset potential here.
I love OG. I love space. I don't think they win in this game though.
Yeah, I think what you discussed before, I think was a really nice, valid point, is the fact that Mayhem, as a series goes on, it gets worse for them. But I think actually the same could be said for the Gladiators. If they lose one map, it gets very, very bad for them.
Yeah.
So I think Mayhem, you take control, baby. Let's go. I don't think there's any world where they don't win. The Mayhem don't win. This is insane.
The next match. Next match is Hangzhou versus Seoul. Who have you got, Jack?
Seoul.
Okay.
Wow,
what is going on, Matt?
Spark fan.
What's going on?
Should have gone with Spark.
Did I take Hangzhou? He just saw pink and he thought he was voting for the Mayhem again.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
Why did you take Hangzhou?
Because I think they're better. I think they're better.
Oh.
Yeah, he's obviously really glued to that opinion.
I believe I may have typed the wrong name here.
Look,
but
You typed the wrong name for your
man. I love X6 as much as you love X6, but they ain't winning it, unfortunately.
The one other time I was on the opposite side of things, I got it right. What was that? I picked Chengdu against.
No. You
I
said
never picked Chengdu, and then I picked Chengdu right after that because we predicted 2 Chengdu games.
Matt's literacy wins again.
I'm not gonna stay on this.
This
game.
one won't turn out as good as my last one.
Okay. All right. Dallas versus Toronto. What do you think, Jack?
Dallas versus who? Toronto. Fuel.
Dallas Fuel.
Dallas.
Okay.
Dallas versus the Fuel.
Well, there it is.
Okay.
I've said that before.
This one,
definitely.
arguably closer than the previous game we just predicted. So it's quite interesting that we've all gone Fuel, especially because Fuel right now are very turbulent. Like in terms of their coaching staff that's gone, their star player that's gone.
Yeah.
Times are rough right now for the Fuel. It's interesting that we have this much stock still in this team.
Yeah, in theory, though, a Doha, Onigod, like
it's
Sombra,
good, yeah.
Ash, or Sombra, Widowmaker, it should be able to play pretty well. And we
should have enough talent, yeah.
We've seen the Toronto Defiant. I mean, they played against the Shock and they got shit stomped. But I think so would Dallas. Dallas would also get shit stomped by the Shock. So we have very little data to really go on. I think this could be a close game. I just gave the edge to Dallas.
Yeah. I'm excited for that match, actually.
Valiant versus Gladiators. Who you got?
Valiant.
Oh. Yep.
I think this one could be pretty
series
close.
with. I think they're hyper clutch.
I'm a little bit confused actually at this. We've all.
Well, I'm confused why you guys all went Valiant here, but predicted them to
I still need the Gladiators to win this match. I need to flop. The Gladiators still need to win this one as well. This is like the most important one to keep the Valiant out of the top 10. Shit on it. Yeah, I predict the Gladiators actually.
So you guys all would, with this logic, then believe the Valiant are better than the Mayhem.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat them.
Well, that's true. It's a close series, but
we
like
don't work
for the
with
whole
that kind of
season,
analysis.
Not for the whole season. I mean, just coming out of that meta, I feel like KSP clutched the shit out of it. Yeah. I feel like Mayhem were the better team.
Him and Gravy too. McGravy
honestly.
was a clutch god on Ilios.
He's a good lad, McGravy.
Yeah,
he's a good guy.
But the Mayhem should never have given KSP that many opportunities. Like the fact that he was able to kill 4 people at the end of
literally
Havana was
sit there on
appalling.
Widow and click heads like he was playing an aim trainer.
Yeah.
What a weird episode in terms of predictions.
Very strange.
Yeah, I mean, that's it for what we've done. Yeah, in terms of, we don't predict much. We do like 4 matches. But I mean, these matches are so like, I don't know, they're inconsequential, aren't they? It's like, I feel like normally I've got more skin in the game than this, but whatever. Anyway, we're moving on to my favorite segment of the week, the only segment that matters, the one that everybody. Okay, you're just gonna spoil it, all right? Yeah, it's time for my player of the week. Roll the tape, Kurt. What do we got this week? What you doing around here, Parson? Huh? First player of the week presented by T-Mobile. Don't remember recording that one. What is that?
Yeah, I don't know what that one was.
Assuming you had to send these off to T-Mobile for them to say okay, why on earth did they say okay to half of these? You look like a deranged homeless person broke into a house with a green suit on and they were filming.
Did you guys? Ridiculous. I don't think Josh and Matt heard the audio for that.
No, I just saw that you were rambling.
What did you say?
I can't repeat it. I would not be able to repeat that. That is the derangements of an improv actor. That just
actor, homeless person.
I mean, whatever. My player of the week this week.
Thing in LA.
My player of the week this week. There's a lot of contenders. There's been some good tweets being put out. I haven't been looking at them because I've actually stopped using Twitter and banned it. But it's going to somebody who probably underappreciated in the general Overwatch community. Someone who day by day has gone in and done the job that needs doing every single time, day in, day out, doesn't matter. It's going to go to Scott Mercer from the Overwatch dev team.
Love Scott Mercer. So this is where we get to talk about why Scott Mercer is the player of the week.
So on top of Scott Mercer being one of the developers for the Overwatch League, or not for the Overwatch League, but for Overwatch in general, I'm revealing too much. Overwatch League is scripted, blah, blah, blah. The point I'm trying to make here is that, being a game developer is actually quite a difficult job because you're often in the firing line of plebeians and they've got shotguns and you've got a small little tiny buckler that's only there to deflect a little bit. But you're like, I'm still listening. I'm still taking the shots. But it's a difficult job is what I'm making. But on top of that, for some reason, Scott has decided, yes, I will go on a co-stream with Josh and Matt on the Saturday for the first 2 matches. We are going to be doing...
For one game.
There's only one game? Okay, well, I don't know the details. One game. I don't get let in on the details. But anyway.
He doesn't get let in on the details.
They're doing a co-stream on the Plat Chat YouTube. So instead of watching youtube.com/Overwatch League, you can go to ours, which I don't know what the URL is, but presumably you're already on it if you're watching.
Yeah.
And on that Saturday morning, you can watch the co-stream with Josh, with Matt, and Scott Mercer, and they're going to be bringing you the action.
Yeah.
Pretty sick.
So it's actually super awesome that Overwatch League, Overwatch the game is allowing it to happen. So basically, we'll have Scott Mercer on here. He's a principal designer. You guys all have seen Scott numerous times on different Overwatch broadcasts. He'll be coming to this channel to hang out with Josh and I during the Dallas-Toronto game. What'll be good about and different about this co-stream is we will actually have the game broadcasted on this channel as well.
Yeah.
So you won't have to open up 2 tabs. You can have me, Josh, and Scott in the game right here on Plat Chat. It's a sick opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've got any topics that you want to,
awesome.
if you've got any topics that you want us to discuss with Scott, you can put it in. It's on Saturday, the 22nd.
Saturday, yes.
Yeah.
Well, some unfortunate soul.
If you've got any topics to suggest, you can put them in the comments section below as well. And it's just going to be a chill kind of session. We're going to watch the games. We're going to chat about it a bit. We're going to talk about some stuff to do with general Overwatch as well.
Yeah.
It should be fun.
Yeah, we're going to be discussing a lot of just community topics, Overwatch esports history. Scott's always been one who's, been at all the BlizzCons to see the World Cup. He watches, he watched Apex back in the day, right? Like he loves Overwatch esports. So it'll be fun. I always enjoy talking.
I remember Scott was the first Overwatch or Blizzard employee to follow me when I was casting Overwatch.
Nice.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter. No idea why. It was after Josh, me and you did the I Buy Power Summer Showdown thing.
Oh, really?
In 2016.
Oh, I think the first Blizzard employee that ever followed me was Nate Nanzer after I was on a podcast shit talking the Combine and saying how it would never work.
Yeah, that's when Josh really ascended. He knew, he's like, you know what? It's like, I'm gonna make it one day. But I think it's a huge shout out and thanks to just Overwatch League and Overwatch for allowing it to happen, especially with the gameplay on the stream as well. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. You'll get to hear me and Josh cast the game together. You'll also hear Bren and somebody else have to cast the game together as well.
That's later on. That's gonna be
almost gonna be more funny.
Oh my god!
That's the last 2 matches of the day. I don't want to leak it. I don't want to spoil it yet. But you guys, we're mixing up the duos a little bit. I mean, people have. We're mixing up the duos on the Saturday. Don't worry, you're not casting with me.
Well, because obviously, me and Josh obviously can't cast. But Bren still has to cast. Yes. So Bren we'll have a
I'm
different
actually
partner
buzzing
that
for
day.
this. I don't know. I'm actually really excited for this cast because I'm doing color commentary. I'm doing color commentary, so I'm really looking forward to this. Actually, it's a return to my. I've got a funny story to tell you. Actually, of Contenders Season 0, just to top off this Player of the Week segment presented by T-Mobile. But I remember when we were doing a Contenders Season 0 show, and we were all in Denver, and I remember being in the swimming pool or something, and I remember Puckett. I can't remember how this came up, but it wasn't even Puckett. Somebody said, basically, and I misunderstood it, but what I understood was that somebody had said at Blizzard, at the headquarters of Blizzard, this is before I was in the Overwatch League, before I really knew I was part of the Overwatch League. So apparently someone at Blizzard said that I couldn't do analytical content. And I took this to heart, and I got a little bit pissed about this because
dude, he was drawing graphs.
Well, it wasn't. This was before the birth of the. This was before the Brenji. You know what I mean? This is before the desk persona of just I'm just.
This is when you took yourself a little bit seriously.
Yeah, and I had analytical YouTube content and everything else. And nowadays, I've realized
he was offering to coach LG.
There was a world in which I almost coached Luminosity. It was a different time in my life, and Lord knows what would have happened if I had followed down that path. I'm thankful I've gone down the clown route instead, because I think it's been a little bit more
favorable.
Yeah, it's been a bountiful harvest. Just going down this road. But anyway, I remember hearing this, that somebody at Blizzard, or misunderstanding that someone at Blizzard said I couldn't do analytical content. I was like, I'll fucking show you who can do analytical content. And I was casting with ZP. And I remember saying to ZP,
Classic, yeah.
At the time, I was like, ZP, you're doing only play-by-play, you little shit, okay? You're doing only play-by-play for this cast. And I only did color for that cast. So it's going to be a return of the Bren color cast.
Cool.
From 2017. It's a retro style.
Somebody on Reddit, I was telling Josh earlier today, was like, they should let Bren, Matt, and Josh do a game together. I was like, look, you don't really want that to happen. The producers on our show, that's probably the combination of 3 people. They pray it doesn't happen. It may be enjoyable for you for the 20 minutes, but nope.
The fans of the teams probably won't enjoy that one. Actually, I reckon
it would be Bren would just start talking about moving Indonesia to be a surfer, and then me and Josh would just insult each other passively the entire game, and then eventually we'd just be like, well, that one guy's not very good, and then we would just start laughing. It wouldn't be great.
I mean, sure. There's also a world at which I could have been a game developer. Speaking of, I was just thinking about Scott Mercer just then. Why are you grimacing, Matt?
I just find the fact that any type of
no, I've got no degree.
Any type of designer or developer.
I have no education background really at all.
You went to university though?
Nope.
You did? Didn't you?
Nope. Didn't go
to apply.
I was going to, and then I decided
for cybersecurity, right?
No.
What for? Oh, that was me that I wanted to do.
That was me.
Bro, what?
Did you just confuse your own past
with mine?
Did you just confuse your own memories?
I was speaking to someone about cybersecurity the other day because that's actually the field I wanted to go into, and I thought it was Bren. But someone else
might have had a
shared
discussion about it.
But it was you thinking. You mixed up your own thoughts for something Bren had said.
Can we also I knew Scott worked on WoW, but I was like, what else has he done? And I'm like, what a legend. He was a level designer for Brood War. Then he moved on to be a game designer of Warcraft 3 for Reign of Chaos and the Frozen Throne, and then became an encounter designer for WoW, and then obviously became a systems designer for Overwatch.
That's a sick
Those
resume.
are most of my favorite games in there.
Yeah. That is a ridiculous
I reckon
resume.
if I had gone down that path, I would have been a young Scott Mercer.
Sure.
I reckon I've got it in me.
That's very insulting.
Although it does say it says in Scott's trivia that he enjoys watching anime, so maybe something in common. Yeah. That Scott watches anime.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of people do, Matt. But the point I was making is that if I was a game designer, I'm telling you, I could revolutionize game design as it's known. I would be a visionary in the field. You know,
I think I've met a version of you. In fact, a few of them actually at my degree back in the UK. They always dropped out in year one because they come in like, I'm going to be a visionary. I'm going to make the best games anybody has ever seen.
Well,
zombie game.
I don't think they're going to be the best games ever.
Jaws is on some weird.
I would say
mental loop.
What?
Jaws forgets who he is, and he keeps thinking that like you're him, and he's just getting it all confused.
Yeah, no, but there was never had any colleagues at uni. He was in an
it was just
I wasn't going to go into game design at uni. I was going to.
You were.
I was going to do computer science because there's no money. There's no money in game design.
Well, game design is ridiculously difficult. I only know one person out of my entire university course in my year that went on to actually be successful in game design. And there were at least 30 others.
It's because it's like any career path that's kind of made from passion, right? Is that it's a lot of people want to do it. Yes. So as a supply and demand,
that's why I didn't go into it after uni because my heart really wasn't it.
That's why Josh didn't become a doctor. There was
supply and demand.
Too many doctors.
Supply and demand, right? Yeah, supply and demand.
Basic economics, basic
economics.
What are you saying, Kurt? Do you reckon it's time to close it up?
Close it up like we're